What will happen, in your view, if the court rules in favor of Idaho in this case?
We know it will be devastating. We are already seeing a number of women that are not able to get the care they need. Stories about people having to have hysterectomies, having to have surgeries, their entire reproductive systems being in under threat, their lives and health being under threat because they're not able to get the care they need in these very tragic emergent situations. So that will continue, but it will also embolden this extremism further, and we will continue to see further and further attacks on healthcare and on women's access to healthcare. People that thought that Dobbs was the end, we have now seen that it was not the end, and that there is no bottom to the extreme nature that these groups are going to go to continue to deprive people of healthcare. And so I think this is a very high stakes case, and it is one where if the court were to decide in favor of Idaho, it would be devastating to the health and well-beings of millions, but it will also be a threat to our overall democracy because the court would essentially be saying that a federal protection that applies to all people doesn't apply to people in a state like Idaho, or in my home state like Texas, where we've also seen women like Kate Cox and others be denied the care they need.
There have been a lot of abortion-related headlines over the last few weeks, and including the Mifepristone case, the Arizona 1864 law. It can get hard to sort through, I think, for regular consumers who might just see the headlines flashing by. What's your overall takeaway of the activity, the legal and legislative activity we're seeing around reproductive health at this juncture in 2024?
Well, first of all, we are seeing, again, as I started, that abortion is a democracy issue. The vast majority of people support it. And in states where citizens are able to put issues on ballots, in states where there are free and fair elections, we are seeing an increase in people voting for protections for reproductive health care. But we are also seeing concerning and emboldened attempts to restrict this access. And so that's a lot of the headlines you're seeing. Things that were a bit unimaginable maybe a few years ago have now become normalized. So an attempt to take a product like mifepristone, which as you referenced is a product that is used, a medication that is used for early termination of pregnancy. It's used for a variety of other reproductive health care, but it's approved by FDA for the termination of pregnancy, has a 2-decade safety and efficacy record, is incredibly safe, is incredibly commonly used. We're seeing extremists seek to go to court and have the court remove that product, remove the approval of the product, or roll back the way the product is regulated so that you can't access the product via telehealth. We're seeing people now threaten contraception access. We are seeing extremists have to resort to laws that were passed in the 1800s. You just referenced Arizona. We're also seeing this in broader ways with people referencing a federal Comstock Act, which is a law that should not even be applied or in effect, but that they're trying to go back to enforce. And so I think to break through those headlines, it's important to know that we're at a crisis point because notwithstanding that the vast majority of people support this healthcare and support the ability of people to access it, and notwithstanding the harms that we see when people are denied healthcare, there's nevertheless a movement afoot in certain states and in the courts to roll it back. And so that's really all the headlines you see could boil down to that. And it's why it's very important, and thank you for having me on. It's important to highlight these stories and these issues because this is something that we all need to be aware of and using the tools that we have to support women and girls.